Okay, so now we are on to making our pattern. I decided to pull out my mini pattern technique. I like to use this to help teach my daughter. So it gives just a little bit easier way of seeing a bigger piece of material. So here's your material. You're going to fold it from top to bottom. Now your piece of material is going to be about 40 inches by 48. And you want the 48 inches to go from left to right. So, and then you do just one more fold over. So you're going to now have a square of material. So there's going to be 2 folds at the top and 1 on the left. So I will be marking out the measurements at the bottom of this video in case you get lost. So no worries. Let's go measure ourselves. So my waist measurement, I usually like to drop it down just a little bit because I like my waistband a little bit lower, and then my hip, make sure it's going around the bigger part of your bum. Now take your waist measurement and divide by 4. I usually take a good 4 inches off my measurement because the stretch material does stretch out quite a bit, so you want it to be a little bit more form-fitted. Now take your measurement, your divide by 4 measurement, and make a little notch with your tailor chalk or a pin if you don't have chalk. It's best to have chalk, so make sure you get that. Now the hip measurement is more or less, you don't have to do this, but I kind of like to because it gives me an idea where to start drawing my angle. So I usually go across 10 inches and then drop down about 7 inches. And make it like a little light line, you know, an area of where I'm going to be starting my angle. And this will make a lot more sense as we get going, so don't worry, stick and hang in there with me. So the next thing you want to do is make sure your skirt length is right. My best skirt length for me is 18 inches. However, I am 5'9", and if you're a little bit shorter or taller, you might want to cut off a couple inches or add on a couple inches. So easiest way to measure that is to put your measuring tape to your belly button and just drop it down and let it hang to your knee, and that's a good size measurement unless you want a little bit shorter. So so 18 inches from the middle top to the bottom, and your transition for your little pixie drop on the side that gives us that cute little drop on the side of our skirt is going to be 10 inches. So I just measure up 10 inches from the bottom corner and make my little notch right there. So pretty simple. Now I did miss out on one measurement, which I will go over on the next segment here. I'm just realizing that. So just to quickly draw a little angle. We'll get more detail on that on the next segment here. Just more of an idea of how you're going to be cutting out and drawing out your pattern on the bigger piece of material. So let's just cut that out, and once we do that, you can unfold your pattern, and this is your skirt at the front and the back. So both materials still stuck together, and yeah, so same exact angle on both sides because we did fold it in half and then half again, and now you just need to cut out your waist. So that, and when that's done, we're just going to go ahead and make your stitching lines, your guide to where you're going to be stitching. I actually use my stitching foot on my machine. I just actually guide the edge of my material on the side of my foot and go along with that, but you can always draw too, that's okay. And of course, pinning it together is a good idea because this type of material does shift around quite a bit, and pins are always helpful. So I like to pin as well. So here we go. Here is our actual cut, our skirt. And the one measurement that I was missing was the very bottom. So how much material over do you measure from the middle to the edge? Now this is, of course, it still folded in half, and it's going to be, the perfect measurement is 24 inches. Now I ran out of material, so I cheated a little. Mine's just under 23, so don't tell anybody. it still worked out really good. So you don't, it just goes to show you don't have to be totally perfect. Now your length is right there, so your 18 inches or 16 or 20, however you want your skirt, and your waist at the top, and the transition on the side for your little pixie drop for your skirt. So I'm going to show you quickly here how I cut out my moon shape. And what I did is I just grabbed my ruler and I matched up my ruler to the top corner bit where I measured my waist, and then at the bottom for the transition cut for the pixie drop on the side, the 10 inches that I cut out. So yeah, so anyways, I use tailor chalk and I just, just eyeball a nice little angle with my ruler there. Now the midpoint is going to be about 2 inches drop down. You don't want to go too far down, and you don't want to, have not enough of an angle. So you get the idea. It's pretty simple. So eyeball it, and like I said before, it doesn't have to be perfect. So now you want to unfold your skirt carefully because you want to keep the front and the back still stuck together. And the nice thing about jersey knit is that it actually does stick nicely together, and I find it's one of the easiest materials to work with. So if you're not used to working with stretch material, don't be intimidated by it at all, because it actually is one of the easier pieces to work with and to fit to your body. So this is the only seam that you're going to need to do to your skirt. So it's just this angle that you need to stitch, which is really cool. We are not going to have to worry about hemming our skirt or anything like that, because the raw cut material, it does not fray because of the type and style of the weave of the material. So you can add a hem to the bottom if you like, but I'm just going to keep it all raw at the end. So anyways, I'm going to make our stitching guide with the chalk, and then of course pinning the material back is super important. So excuse my dog in the background. He's such a good dog. Anyway, so let's do that. Get our pins in there, and then we're just going to take our skirt and we're going to flip it over to the other side and do the same on the other side. So from top to bottom, and there we go. Another thing I want to point out just really quickly is directional sewing. So make sure that when you are stitching your seam, you're starting from the top to the bottom. And if you start from the top to the bottom on one side, and then on the other side you go from the bottom to the top, you're going to find a really funky twist in your material. So make sure you're always stitching from the top to the bottom.